Hey everyone, it's Angie Caney with Tink's Treasures. And yes, I'm still sick, so please bear with me, but I want to come back and share this video with you. I was able to finally play with my Empress Gild Machine, and I just want to share some of my results with you and the process I went through with some of the things and how it turned out. So here are some of the cards that I was able to put together. So the Gild Machine works with Anna's hot foil plates, or any hot foil plates from other manufacturers for that matter. These are the ones that I got. So I got 2 frame background dies, and then I got a set of these sentiments, and then the frames came with these corner dies. And so I played with a bunch of them. These are all the ones I got. I didn't get the background designs. I kind of wish I would have. But for now, this is what I have that I am working with. And then I also have some impression dies and Anna's 3D dies, cutting dies. So this one here, this is a combination. Okay, so the top one is the impression die, this one here, and then this one is it's a 3D die, and it's the one with the fairy with it. So the fairy, I forget the name of it, but the one with the fairy. And so it has this background die to go with it, and it foiled pretty good. And I feel silly now because there is a shadow layer frame die that I could have used to cut this out better, but I just fussy cut it out. So down here it did pretty good, and up here it didn't do so hot. And then I had saved the foil to be able to do some negative foiling with it also. And I think I have that down here. This one. So this is the negative, or this is the positive, sorry. This is the positive image that comes from the foil, and then this would be the negative. And that did so. So part of this, in going through the process, I used the same paper just to try and keep things the same, to figure out my pressure and my heat and the foil. So, you know, some of it could have been the foil, but here's what I learned, and I actually covered it up on this one, is that this one here covered perfectly. And this was a matter of, even though this is like, it's not a small die, it probably could have been considered the medium setting. I put it on the large setting, so for 5 minutes on the heat setting, and that's when it foiled the best for me. And part of it also can be how well your die cut machine, you know, presses as you pass it through. So anyway, so this is the one that worked best for me. And then I did go ahead and try, this is also the 3D die from that same cutting set, and it foiled okay. And then I did try the negative image for that, and that is this. It's okay, it's not 100% perfect, but I'm gonna save it. So these are some of the other cards that I was able to go ahead and make. So this one I used this one, and it foiled pretty well. I did use some of my embellishments to cover up the boo-boos, like didn't quite 100% right there, but this was one of my first ones and it came out really well. And then these are just some of Anna's embellishments that I have. And then this one here, let's get well soon. This one is well done. Those came out the best. In fact, my very first one that I tested was this one, and I was so excited, and then I realized I put it on the wrong side of the paper. So I have this nice shiny cardstock, and I was going on that, so it transferred very well onto the back side of the cardstock as well. But I went ahead and I was using the shiny side because I know she had said it worked really well on smooth. Obviously this is smooth too, but my goal was this side. So I haven't used this one yet. And then this was just a butterfly I had, but I thought it went so well with all the gold. One of the other ones I did, I think the next one I did was actually with the impression die. And I wasn't expecting this to cut out as a die cut. So when I was watching, when Anna was demoing on, not HSN, but on her channel, I kept hearing and asking people, or seeing people ask, you know, are these going to die cut? No, they're not going to die cut. Okay, I totally understand that for the foil plates. They're not die cutting. However, with the impression plates, it did. This was the best. So my favorite so far are the impression dies, not necessarily the foil dies that came with it, or even the 3D dies would be my favorite are these impression dies. In fact, I might look for the others. I know she had like 4 sets of impression dies that she had one year. So these foiled perfectly as well as die cut. And you can see this is the shiny side of that cardstock I have. So it looks really nice on there. And then this is one of the other sentiments that she has, and then I just, you know, cut it out with my paper trimmer and put it on this paper. And then I did use the reverse foiling, so I saved the foil and I was able to foil on foil. So this was one of my other attempts. Again, it was this die. So this die had or impression plate, it's not impression plate, the foil plate, when I put it through, and this is the negative image of this one. So this one foiled almost perfectly. I think there's like one little bit right down here in the corner that didn't foil perfectly. But then when I went to do the reverse foiling, it didn't work as good. And I'll get into that. But I still like it. It gives it more of a vintage feel. And I was just able to put these embellishments together to go with this. And then I just thought it looked good foil on foil. So these are my cards that I have put together. But then these are some of my others, and I would consider these kind of a fail. So I already showed you the fairy. Oh, and this was just like a total, I don't know what I was thinking. Oops. I had a small piece of foil left over, so I was like, oh, in my mind, I'm thinking the 3D concentric, or not concentric, but the 3D cutting dies I have a bunch of. So I just reached in and grabbed a small one. This was just a cutting die. So technically it foiled on the edge here, but it only cut it out. So I'm just going to save this and I'll use it somewhere else. That was my bad. Here were a couple of the other tries for that same die. So that was the first one. This is the second one. It was getting a lot better, but it wasn't 100%. And then by the time I got to the third one, which I did on that higher temperature, it worked really well. This was the second pass of this one. Like I said, this one I ended up doing on the wrong side. I ran it through again. It didn't catch all of that. And then I did the reverse foiling. it was awful, but this kind of falls on me, and I'll show you. Okay, this one. So this came with the frame die or frame foil plates. These two are okay. These ones aren't. But my concern is there's no die for this, so you have to fussy cut it out. Or I haven't got to another placement idea of how you could do it. But this isn't my favorite either, because now I have to fussy cut it out. And then this was the fairy again, and I was just trying it on cardstock, and it's okay. But that isn't the best example. I'm sure if I play with it more, I can get better results. And then, again, this is the negative. So happy for you. And this one isn't too bad. And I'll explain why. So, in the process of playing with all of these, using the reverse hot foil process, you need another plate. And I know there's other plates out there. I think Pink Fresh has one, and maybe Spellbinders has one, where it's, and theirs are shaped like an oval or a square, or maybe there was even a heart, but it's a solid plate. I didn't have that. So what I ended up doing, and as the video goes on, you'll be able to see it, is that this is kind of a hack. Okay, so I used this die of Anna's, and I'll have to look it up and see which one it is. I think it's a pop-out one, and I don't even remember. I'm going to have to go back and find it. And then it's, you know, got the cutting guides here, and you don't want to be cutting on your heat plate. So what I did is I got some tin foil. I made a couple layers. And I put it down so that it was protecting this plate. And then I heat this up. And this is what ended up working best. And I'll try and write this out better on screen. But for the solid foil, I did the plate with the actual foiling, the like Reynolds wrap. And then the cardstock. And then I put it through the machine twice. And I put it on, the hot setting was for large, and then I let it sit for 6 minutes. So that was like my little formula to be able to do that. And that's when I started to be able to get these better quality transfers. And part of me was like, well, I want to possibly get the other solid foiling plates, but I really wasn't looking to spend some more money. So my thought is just to continue to use this for now. And then if you were to, like, say, die cut it first with a shape, say you wanted a heart. So you use your heart, whether you have your die cut machine or your Cricut or whatever, however you're cutting it out. You already have the paper cut first. You'll have this. You'll put your foil on there, and then your paper, and then, you know, the cover, and then run it through that way, and then it should still go through and give you that shape that you want, or an oval, or whatever it is. So that's my workaround for now, and I'll just make a separate video on that later. So I have some other parts of the video to show you, so I'm going to get into that now. Okay, so here is a couple of the first items that I went ahead and foiled, one being the frame foil plate that I got with the Gild Machine from Anna, and then here is the actual die cut and foil using one of the impression dies. So that's the actual die. And then here's the foil that I'll be using later. So this by far is the best in my opinion. Okay, so here is how the negative image came out. And again, that's mostly because I didn't have the proper plate to foil against. But I do go ahead and add the foil from the plane onto that foiling. And so what I've done is I went ahead and used this metal shim that comes with your Empress. And at this point, I was only heating it up for 5 minutes, and I added an extra cardstock shim under there for extra pressure. And then I went ahead and used the large setting and the 5 minutes, and I run it through the Empress. And I think I run everything through the Empress twice, just because some of the other examples I saw, they were running it through twice. And then I always just put it back in. Hopefully it is able to heat up that way. So here you can see it didn't cover everything. And I think that's because I didn't have enough pressure evenly. And I think I went back and used it again, but added more shim. So I think I had 2 or 3 pieces of cardstock. And that time it actually worked as far as applying the plain foil onto the background foil. So here I go ahead and just remove the clear backer. I should have had some tweezers, but for this part I just had my knife to be able to pick it up and pull it off, but that's how it applied, and it applied well. So moving on to the 3D fairy scene set. This is just the first set that I grabbed, and this is just, I'm going to see how well it'll foil. And I was experimenting with different ways to cut the foil. I was trying my rotary blade. It didn't do so hot. So eventually I ended up just using scissors. And for this attempt, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on some ivory colored cardstock just to see how well it applies to plain cardstock. So I'm not overly impressed with this particular image. Again, I could have used something with a little more detail, but this has all these little pieces that want to pop out because that's how it is for the actual die. So a lot of it didn't foil everywhere, but this is a good comparison between the shiny cardstock that I have and then just plain paper cardstock. Okay, so I want to go ahead and use the negative foil for this. And what I'm going to try is using that metal shim that comes with your Empress in the cutting plate system. So I'm just using the metal shim to heat up, and then I'm going to put the negative foil down. And right there, I have something stuck to my foil that I got to get off. But I'm going to put that down, and then I have a piece of that shiny cardstock I've been using. I'm going to put a cardstock shim over it, and then the plate. This one I am running through for 5 minutes, and then we're going to pass it through the die cut machine. So you can see this actually foils pretty good. It's just that when I go to remove the top film, that it just pulls a little bit of the foil off. It's not that bad actually. And I think if I had another shim in there, it would have applied more pressure, and it probably would have had a better foiling process and a cleaner image. But that actually looks pretty good. And I just use my paper trimmer. No, this one I actually fussy cut out. So that wasn't too bad. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the die that comes with that 3D fairy scene set. I'm hoping there's going to be a little more detail here. And again, I go ahead and try using the rotary blade. It doesn't work. So I end up using just scissors to go ahead and cut the foil with everything. And I cut it pretty exact, and I'm just going to keep this leftover foil for another project. So for this one, I'm just applying it like I would regularly, the die, then the foil. I'm going to do my 5 minutes, and then I'm going to run it through the Empress. And I've been running everything through twice, and sometimes I even offset it going through the Empress just to see what the pressure is going to be like. Okay, so for the reveal here, it starts out okay. And it's not so bad. I would say, you know, maybe this is I'd give this one a C for a grade, because at the bottom it's pretty good, but at the top it didn't do so well. And I've heard people say to put the die down towards the bottom, so I'll need to try that in the future. So I want to go ahead and do the reverse image here. I'm going to use that metal shim again. So I'm just going to apply the foil, the cardstock, a shim, the plate, do my 5 minutes, and then I run it through the Empress twice. Okay, so the reveal for this actually looks really good until I remove the clear cover on it, because it doesn't quite adhere all the way. So I am going to run it through again. So the reveal for this is better, but it's still not perfect. But again, I'm just using this hack, using the metal shim. But you can see once I pull it back, it doesn't stick 100%. But then I have my frame die that I'm just going to go ahead and die cut around it and use it anyway. It has a good distressed look to it, so if I just was using it as a distressed item, it looks pretty good. For the next part, I'm just going to show how I am using the corner dies. I don't end up using them because I feel like I don't want to fussy cut everything out. But this will just show how well they do foil. And you'll see I placed the two on the bottom closer to the edge, and I've noticed that once it's done that those did not cut or foil as well. So I'm thinking, keep everything to the center as close as possible. So you'll be able to see here that those two on the bottom didn't foil as well, and I'm just thinking that it was too close to the outside of the foiling area. So I would suggest just keeping things closer to the center. So this turns out to be my favorite impression die that foils really well by the end, but it takes me 3 or 4 tries. So I'm just going to speed the video up right here just so that you can see I try and try and try. And it's not until later that I finally get a full foil. Okay, this is the one that has the full foil on it, and it die cuts out beautifully. So don't give up, just keep trying and you'll get it. I have a few of the foil plate sentiments that I want to go ahead and try, and these work nicely. I use the small setting on this, and I just use one piece of foil to cover both pieces. I'm just kind of trying it out, so I'm experimenting. I have one piece of cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and set it for the small, run it through twice. And then you can see these foil really nicely. I just used my paper trimmer to trim those down. Okay, here comes the best part. This is my hack. So this is where I was talking about using some tin foil, making a few layers just to protect the plate of the gilding machine. I'm going to change it to the large, and then I'm going to add an extra minute to it. And I think the thickness of this works better than when I was using the metal shim. So I'm just going to trim these sentiments down that I just foiled. So I'm going to add the foil to the cardstock, add a shim, and then the cover plate, and let it sit there for 6 minutes, and then ran it through my impress twice. And then here's where I have the excellent result. So I'm going to go ahead and make a separate video on this just so that it's a little more clear. But once you pull that film off, it is a perfect transfer. So I'm so happy with this part. So if you could give this video a like and a subscribe, I would appreciate it. As always, I say it is free for you to do, but priceless for me. I'm working on this channel, trying to add some content to it, so I hope you appreciate or enjoy what I have brought to you today, maybe a few tips and tricks along the way. So until next time, I appreciate you watching. Happy crafting. Bye!